going on, everybody, and welcome back to Frankie's Aquatics right here on the wonderful platform that is YouTube. I start each of my video out every week by asking, how are you guys? How has your week been? Has it been kind to you? Has it been good? Has it been fruitful? Has it been busy? Has it been too warm? Has it been too cold? What's been going on? Do let me know in the comments directly below. Now, before I get into the juicy stuff of what this week's video is about, I want to touch base on a few of the things that I'm kind of working on and have been working on behind the scenes that usually you guys wouldn't hear about until they came to fruition. So some of you may already know I do now have a podcast, but I have to make something very clear. It's not an aquatic-based podcast. It is me talking to myself most of the time, but this week I did have a special guest on. So do be sure to go over to the relevant podcast player and do search for Frankie O'Reilly Out of Water podcast, and hopefully you'll find this big beardy face talking about all sorts of stuff. But do be prepared, it's not completely family friendly. There's a few sweary words in there, and there's a few things that are a little bit rude, to say the least. So if it's not something you're interested in, that's absolutely fine. Please don't go searching. Just stay here where we don't swear. It's lovely here, it's ever so family friendly, I do like it. So I'm going to be taking a little bit of a wee break, a little bit of a small break from the YouTube. That's not because for any particular reason, it's just because I've got so many videos that I need to kind of work on and tie up to be able to produce each and every week for you guys. So there's going to be a small tiny break. I'm not quite sure when. I'm going to keep trying to plough on and smashing my way through getting out videos each and every week, and to continue to produce content for you guys each and every week. So there is going to be a little bit of a hiatus. It's not going to be, I'm not quite sure when, but in the coming months there is going to be a bit of a time where I have to take a little bit of a breather. I've been doing this now for over a year, a video each and every week without fail. And it's a lot of work. So there's going to be a small pause button just while I go on refresh really, and then I'll come back fighting as ever. So I hope you understand the reasons as to why there might be a small break. So this week's video, we're going to talk about how to train your water dragon. This is something that's always been requested, and I always get asked questions: how, when is it going to come out, why is it not out already, how do you do it, what do you do, what can you teach them, what can't you teach them. So in this week's video, the intention was to have a bit of a breakdown video of showing you how I actually do it, but unfortunately the test subject that I was working with doesn't really want to play ball and is being very uncooperative, which does happen. You can't train every axolotl, it's impossible, but you can train the best out of the majority of them. So this week we're going to look at how I do that, and I'm going to share a few tips and tricks that you can try, not always guaranteed to work, but it might just help you build that bond with your water sausage. So without any further ado, let's get cracking with this week's video. Come on, off we go. So a little disclaimer, first and foremost, like I said just a moment ago, you're not going to be able to teach all your axolotls every trick in the book. Unfortunately, some are really shy and timid, and they will always be shy and timid. It's just part of their character. It does happen. Whereas some are more forward, don't show any signs of fear of human interaction, and they kind of want a little bit more from their keeper. And it's usually those test subjects that you kind of get the best out of. Now, the best way and the easiest way of doing this is being persistent. However you approach your axolotl, be persistent in your approach. So let's say, for example, you feed in the morning, feed in the morning. And before you know it, your axolotl will start to realise, oh, it's going to be feeding time soon, and they'll start to hover around a particular area of your tank. So we're going to talk about a few basic things before we go jumping into a few tricks that you can try yourself. So the basic things are, don't expect miracles from every axolotl. As I just said, some are going to be really up for it, some are not. Some are going to be very food driven, some are not. Some are going to be really happy to see you, and some are always going to be hiding. I'm sorry, it's just the luck of the draw. They're not always that happy and friendly and happy to see us. Sometimes they're a little bit shy and timid, but that is part of the parcel. Same with anything. Same with anything. Most axolotls are very food driven, so your food source will definitely help you in regards to training your axolotl. This is how I do things. Rather than tell you what to do, I'm going to tell you what I do, and hopefully be able to take a few bits of advice from there and hopefully relay them in your own practices and get the best out of keeping your axolotl. So I feed my axolotls around about the same time most days. And when I do feed, I always feed a particular axolotl in a particular corner. So for example, let's just pretend we've got a fish tank right here or an aquarium right here. I feed Pixel in this corner. Every single time without fail, I'll never feed in this corner. I'll never go to her with the food. I always let Pixel come to me. And what that will eventually teach your axolotl is, well, if I stay over here, I'm never going to get any food. He's always over there. So I better start slowly making my way over there. And maybe I might get myself that little juicy worm that I've been eyeing up. It does work. Perseverance, you might feel like you've been doing it for 3 weeks and getting absolutely nowhere with it. But if you stick to a similar sort of time and a similar sort of approach in how you do things, don't just be in a rush and just open up the tank and chuck a worm in and expect your axolotl to be happy to see you when you're there. You have to persevere, you have to work with them. The best way of doing that is just consistency. You have to be consistent in your approach. Like I said, go to the same corner that you feed in every single time and feed in that same corner in the same fashion each and every time you do it. Eventually your axolotl will learn that that's the feeding corner, and they will happily sit there waiting for you one day. And one day when you feel like all your efforts are wasted, you'll come in and your axolotl, believe it or not, will be sat there waiting for you in the feeding corner. That's one way of training your axolotl where they feed in their tank. This is probably the one that people kind of go, I've been doing it for weeks and I'm getting nowhere. It doesn't work. It really does with most axolotls. You've just got to persevere. So feed in the same corner at the same time as often as you can. The second thing is, make your presence known. Make yourself known. Don't be too shy to go in the tank. Don't go in there with tweezers. Don't go in there with turkey bases being all shy about disturbing the axolotl. I mean, don't go diving in. Don't like put your swimmy speedos on and jump in the tank yourself. But don't be shy in your approach. Let the axolotl know that you're in there and let them know that you mean them no harm. You got to think it's pretty scary, especially if you're a small sausage. It's pretty scary seeing this big hand come dipping into your tank like, ooh, and you've got to, obviously they're naturally going to freak out and thrash. Pixel will still do that if I catch her off guard. You've got to remember, they haven't got the best vision, so they do rely on you to kind of be a bit patient with them in regards to that. So when you go into their tank, go in slow and steady, but let them know that you're no threat to them. You're not there to grab them. You're not there to cause them any harm. You're not a predator. You're not there to cause them any upset whatsoever. You're only there to make sure that they're okay. So when you do your spot clean, make yourself known. Don't be shy to go over. Don't grab them or touch them. Don't do any of that monkey business, but make yourself known that you're in there. You mean them no harm, and occasionally you might give them a little bit of food as well. So they'll associate you with a good thing rather than a negative thing. You'll be a positive rather than a negative. It'll ingrain in their brain over time. So don't be shy to go into their tank whenever you need to. Just obviously make sure that your hands are nice and clean. Make sure you got all the grimy stuff off your hands, and make sure the soap that you've put on to wash your hands is completely rinsed off. You don't want to be dipping that into the water. Oh no. Oh no. All sorts of problems that will cause. And the next thing, add enrichment to their tank. Whether it be just moving the ornaments around or the decor or how things are set up, every so often, just switch it up a little bit. Give them reason to explore. Give them a reason to explore their tank. Even if it's the same tank they've been in for a couple of years, give them reason to explore the new places. So for example, every once in a while, not very often to be honest, but every once in a while, I'll probably buy a new piece of equipment, whether it be a hammock, whether it be a new hide, whether it be a new fake plant, whatever it might be. It'll be something new that normally, I whistled then, something new. Something new that they'll instantly usually show an interest on. Now sometimes hammocks, they absolutely love them, but it can take them forever to use them. A lot of people go, I bought the hammock on your suggestion, but they never go near it. They don't even bother with it. And I'm like, come down in the middle of the night and have a look. And they'll come down in the middle of the night with a little torch, and lo and behold, they'll be sat in the hammock. They do come alive at night. And they do enjoy exploring new things. There was a friend of mine, Hannah, from Life with Actors, I believe it was her, that had some sort of like dish shelf, like a soap dish shelf, in the aquarium and she put moss balls on there. And she would wake up in the morning and knowing that the axolotl had been on there because the moss balls were all knocked off onto the tank below. So it was showing signs that the axolotl were exploring, just wasn't necessarily always catching it on camera, which is pretty fascinating in itself. They're very, very intelligent little creatures. And the more you put in, the more you get out. It's that simple. It really is. The more you put into your axolotl, the more you'll get out. It really is as straightforward as that. And the last one is don't be shy to introduce feeding pellets. A lot of people don't like the idea of feeding pellets. They prefer live food like worms and bloodworm and stuff like that, more nutritional value to them, which I absolutely agree. They do hold more nutritional value. But thankfully, the feeding pellet itself for the axolotl has improved immensely over the years. I remember back in the day, there was nothing. There was really nothing you could easily source to try and feed your axolotl, whereas now, the market in the community and the market that we obviously have now is a lot better. There are a lot more nutritional value to them. There are a lot more about them. They don't instantly break up and spoil your water. So don't be shy to obviously go in there with feeding pellets. It's another way to encourage them on to sit in your hand. You pop a few feeding pellets on your hand, you bring your hand into the tank, and then when you got it where you want it, just gently open your hand, and then eventually the axolotl will pop over and it will start to come into your hand for the food. Same works with worms, the same works with bloodworms, although it can be a little bit messier with bloodworms. But it's the same sort of thing. It's a case of trust. So the axolotl associates your big hand, because it is a big hand to a small axolotl, is nothing to be feared of. Nothing to scare them. It's not going to grab them or try and cause them any harm. It's just there to deliver treats. And they'll associate that with you. And then over time, the next step, mixed into the first step, you kind of encourage them to sit onto your hand, which they will do. Some people, you'll put your hand in your tank and your axolotl will come over straight away, completely out of curiosity. But you don't want it just to be a one-hit wonder. You want it to be a thing that the axolotl continues to do. And the best way to do that, again, is perseverance. Go in there with a treat. When I'm doing siphoning and I'm cleaning out the mess that the axolotls have left, they always come and sit on my arm. I've got quite big hairy arms and they're always sitting on my arm. I'm taking no end of videos of me like siphoning out the water, and then I'll have an axolotl there, probably there. It's incredible. But you want that to be a regular thing, and they do that completely out of trust. They know that you're not going to cause them any harm. And then over time, you going into their aquarium for whatever reason it might be, isn't seen as a negative impact. It's seen as something positive. So again, it all boils down to the first key rule. It's all about perseverance. Don't do something for a matter of days and go, well, they're not getting it. They're just not getting it. I give up. Because essentially, if you give up on your axolotl, they'll give up on you. They won't do the things that you want them to do. So be wise and persevere. Perseverance is everything. It really, really is. And last but by no means least, get to know your axolotl. Like I said before, axolotls do have very different characters. Some people will go, it's an axolotl. How difficult or complicated can it be? Believe me, they've got very different personalities. Very different indeed. And if you own more than one axolotl yourself, you'll probably know exactly where I'm coming from when I say that. So make sure that you learn the character of your axolotl. Some will be very, very friendly and very, very greety and happy to see you, whereas others won't. That doesn't make them any worse of an axolotl, it doesn't make them a bad axolotl, it just means they're a little bit shy, a little bit timid, and sometimes their space just needs to be respected. It really is that simple. So I really do hope this information has helped you. I'm sorry it's a bit sketchy. Like I said, I did want it to be with video. I was trying to work with a new axolotl I received from Cambridgeshire Axolotl. And I was trying to work with that particular sausage and kind of build a rapport and kind of show you in video format how I do things, because I have a very select way of doing it. But unfortunately, this particular sausage was not playing ball. It didn't want to come to me for food. It didn't want to have anything to do with me. And even now, I'm struggling to kind of have it come over and eat from hand. It is getting there, but very, 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 very slowly. It's just taking a lot longer than I'd hoped for. So unfortunately, you didn't get any juicy video. You just got me talking to you. But hopefully, you might want to take a few things away from this video that might just encourage and help you to obviously understand your axolotl that little bit better. And that's pretty much it for this week's video. Thank you all for stopping by and checking out this week's content. Like I said, there will be a small hiatus soon. I'm not quite sure when. I'm not going to give it a date, but there will be a short break soon. I will make it. I will announce it when I do. But I just need a couple of weeks off, really. Bit of time off just to readjust, kind of hit the refresh button and come back fighting more than ever. So I hope you kind of understand the reason why I'll be doing that. Again, not quite sure when I'll be doing it. I don't know, but I will let you know in advance. A big shout out to my Frankie Lottles, that's my supporters over on Patreon. Now, if you want to be one of my patrons, then head over to the relevant links below and become an official Frankie Lottle. I do appreciate the support, and there's going to be goodies arriving in your postbox very soon, people. Yes, there is. Can't wait to share it with you all. Thank you all for your support as always. Now, if you haven't done so already, please be sure to hit that like button. It just lets me know that you enjoy the content that I'm producing. Also hit the subscribe button because that will keep you in the loop when I upload. And also ding the notification bell. I do that because I don't quite know where I'm going to put it, to be honest. So ding the notification bell. And until next time, ta-ta for now. I would just like to give a big shout out to my Frankie Lottles, that's my supporters over on Patreon. If you want to get yourself involved, then please hit the relevant information directly below. I'm fly free this week. I've ate them all. All gone. All gone.